Good evening. Welcome to The Unstoppable Singer. I am your host, Danielle Tucker. I'm a singer, a vocal coach, and a lead singer with the Mighty Untouchables band. The Unstoppable Singer is an interview style show where I follow the lives of real life professional singers. And these singers have made incredible achievements in their lives and careers. And so we just talk about the challenges and triumphs that come with a career under the bright lights and learn what being unstoppable means to them. So if this sounds like it's for you, stick around because I am going to introduce my fabulous guest tonight. It is voice expert Meredith Colby. She's the creator of Neuro-Vocal for Popular Styles, an innovative approach to teaching singing for popular styles based on brain science. She's the author of Money Notes: How to Sing High, Loud, Healthy, and Forever. With 25 years plus as a professional freelance singer and 30 years plus as a vocal coach, Meredith has also been a recording singer songwriter, led bands, been a theatrical music director, directed choirs, and was an ED of the Center for Voice, a Chicago nonprofit vocal education resource. Meredith lives in the musical mecca of Chicago. Her clients are voice professionals, coaches, and performers. So without further ado, let me bring her on. Hello, hello.
Hi, Danielle. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you doing?
I'm feeling pretty good too. I'm excited to be here. I'm feeling so fancy to be on Danielle's
You
show.
are fancy and special. I'm so excited to have you here. Just for everyone's information, Meredith and I are in a mastermind group together. That is like a very badass mastermind group. It's pretty spectacular, and these women are just so smart and savvy. And I often ask myself, what am I doing in this room? And so
We all do, though, right? To be
I
fair.
know that we're going to have a very smart conversation tonight, but the big words are going to come from you, if that's
Okay.
okay.
I'll try to come up with some big words, Danielle.
Thank you. I
For
appreciate
sure.
that. Awesome. Well, hey, I want to get into the vocal science and your teaching methodologies. But first, I want to learn more about you as a singer because that's the side of you that I don't know yet. So take me back in time and tell me how you got started as a singer, what ignited that light in you, and a little bit about your artist journey.
Back when the earth was cooling off and the dinosaurs roamed the planet. Yeah. I I Danielle, I remember being 10 years old and thinking to myself, I just assumed everybody wanted to be a singer. And if you weren't a singer when you grew up, then something bad must have happened to make you have to do something else.
Right.
Because why would you want to be anything else? So, um, there are a lot of pathways I could take through this story, but
Mhm.
I'm thinking about, uh, but I wanted to learn to sing. My parents were very supportive.
Mhm.
They got me voice lessons. Nobody said to me, "What kind of music do you want to sing?" They just said, "Here's what singing is."
Mm.
And so I had voice lessons all the way through high school. Just to be clear, the music that I listened to and that I loved was R&B
Mhm.
mostly. And yeah, I mean some other stuff, some rock, some singer-songwriter, loved Bonnie
Mhm.
Raitt, but mostly R&B, and that's what I imagined I would be able to sing. That's what I wanted to do, was sing in a band, be a band singer.
Sure.
And then I had voice lessons, and I was learning music I had never heard before in my life, of course,
Mhm.
because it was classical, right? And
Right.
then I went to college and I got more classical lessons. And then I found out there was a jazz program in Miami. What? So I went to Miami to get a studio music jazz program. What? And I got more classical lessons. Boo. So at the end of 9 years at this point, I was so far from being able to do what I had worked so hard to be able to do
Mm,
because my
mhm.
voice sounded weird. I didn't know how to sing for the music that I wanted to sing for.
Yeah.
And I tell that because that's what informs my current life. as I was telling my sister this morning, my entire life is dedicated to making sure nobody else has to experience the trauma that I did.
Right, right.
So yeah, so that's some stuff went on, but eventually I got on I auditioned for a road band, and so I went from being a classical singer to singing in a rock band 5 or 6 nights a week for 3 or 4 hours every night.
Mhm.
And you know what happened, don't you, Danielle?
Yes. You know what happened.
I crashed my voice because that was the only thing that could happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the end of like 9 months or so, I could not speak anymore. And so I
Mm.
had to go back to my parents' house in Minneapolis and recover.
Mm.
And then so after some of that recovering, I moved to Chicago. And I started working with a voice teacher who was a jingle singer, basically.
Mhm.
He also did concerts and stuff, but he was, very much in the popular on mic idiom, if you will,
Mhm.
and he got it. So he helped me develop this voice that I wanted. Also, I had colleagues, student friends, from college who helped me as soon as I got here start working. So literally within a month of moving to Chicago, I was working in jobbing bands. I don't know what you guys call them. What do you call them in California? Casuals?
Yeah.
Yeah, casuals. Yeah. So
Corporate
like,
gigs.
yeah, social, society bands, right?
Right, right. Mhm.
So I was working in those bands, and that's sort of, that was sort of what I did for the next almost 20 years.
Mhm.
Um, During that time, I started to take voice students because I became an evangelist. not not a not a religious evangelist, a voice evangelist,
Right.
because I was like, I'm going to save all the pop singers from the evil classical voice teachers who are ruining their voices, like what happened to me. So,
Right.
um, yeah, so I got a lot of support around that. Took some master's level vocal pedagogy. I got mentoring. I mean, the, I just can't say how supportive the community was for me in that
Mhm.
process of sort of making that moving into teaching. And then for yeah, almost 20 years, my life more or less was teach during the week and sing on the weekends.
Mhm.
So, occasional casino gig where I'd have a 6-week thing, or a cruise ship where I'd have like a 2-week thing, but mostly it was that for
Mhm.
that time. And yeah, so that was that. And then all of a sudden, I just was done. I was
Hmm.
just burned out. I was just done. I was sick
Oh,
of carrying heavy gear in 3-inch heels.
yes.
I was sick of getting lost in the suburbs where there was no lighting.
Mhm.
I was I was just like, I was sick of being the only girl on the gig, only female,
Mhm.
and the misogyny that happens in the music business, all that stuff. I don't know. I was sick of being ignored as a singer, like nobody listening to me
Mhm.
and just being the help. All of a sudden, I was just done.
Yeah.
Like the good parts, like I had taken all the good parts out of it,
Yeah.
and then I wasn't experiencing the good parts anymore. It was just like a job.
Right.
And then I was like, well, I'm just going to do a job. I'm going to do something that pays better and is more regular.
Yeah.
But also another thing that was interesting that happened is that at the end of those singing years, very end, I had the opportunity to sing the national anthem at Comiskey Park,
Oh, wow.
which
Cool.
now has some corporate name and I don't know. But
Mhm.
so there's 30,000 people and me singing a cappella.
Mhm.
And if I had any sense at all, I would have been very nervous, but I wasn't nervous at all. I just didn't give a shit. I
Yeah.
just didn't care.
You were you were over it.
Can you imagine? I mean, in retrospect, I'm like, what was wrong with me? And then a couple years later, I mean, not too long after that,
Mm.
I was my students were having a performance because I didn't have recitals. I would have performance parties
Mhm.
because no one was judging you. It was just like, get
Right.
on, sing in front of people. So
Mhm.
I'm at this performance party and I'm realizing I am so nervous. I do
Hmm.
not have any sweat in my or spit in my mouth. I'm like, "Ah," like
Mm.
I was so invested in them having a positive experience and them having that sense of succeeding.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well,
Mhm.
I guess this is what I actually care about,
Ah,
you
yeah.
know?
Wow. That's a big
So
light
yeah.
bulb moment.
So yeah, I mean, I still sing here and there. I mean, a couple nights from now, I'll be singing backup for my recording artist husband at a club in,
Mhm.
near Chicago. So I still sing some, but mostly I love teaching, and now I'm teaching voice coaches as well, which is even
Mhm.
more fun for me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also I discovered neuroscience in the middle of all of that, and that turned me into such a huge nerd that nobody wants me in their band anymore because I'm too huge of a nerd. Anyway,
Oh
so
my
that's
god,
my story. That's I know it's kinda long, but it's also the kind of the shortest version I can tell, I guess.
yeah, yeah. That's a great journey. Thank you for sharing that, and what I caught at the beginning there when you're talking about training classically, that is so many people's story, including my own. And I was being trained from high school through college, but that was never my chosen genre. I
Right?
mean, my dreams, my desires, my love for music fell far outside the borders of classical music, and I did love classical music as well. And I loved everything I was doing. But the thing that was lost on me was, what is the trajectory here? What is the plan after this schooling? Because
Yeah, what's
nobody
the
seemed to be
plan?
nobody seemed to be talking about that part. I knew a lot of singers who planned to um, just further their education and go into teaching and everything. But it was rare for me to even hear about the classical singer pursuing it professionally. What was your experience, and what were you hearing about what happens beyond the classes?
Yeah, no, I share that experience with you, Danielle. I remember thinking, especially when I was a senior, like, what's the plan here?
Right.
Like, I have these skills, I can sight read, I'm pretty good ears, I can kinda get around a piano keyboard, like, I and?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how to get work, I don't like, yeah, what's the plan here?
Right, right. And it seems like now, and it seems like maybe kind of just now, things are changing a lot in the academic world when it comes to, the way at least as far as the variety of genres that they offer and the different styles and everything. And what do you think? What's the current status of actual like work training going or training
Right,
to be a
yeah.
professional?
You know, I will agree with you that things are changing, but I am not gonna agree with you on things are changing a lot
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I don't think they are.
Hmm.
Because I mean, just as a reflection of the mentality,
Mhm.
if your daughter, I know she's way too young for this, but let's pretend she's not.
Mhm.
She wants to go to college for singing or for music, right?
Mhm.
When she looks at college programs, the designation music means classical music,
Yeah.
even though the music consumed in the world of
Mhm.
classical music is 1 to 2%.
Mhm.
That's including singing. That's
Mm.
all the classical music. So
Right.
it's a tiny little niche, and yet in academia, music means classical music.
Mhm.
And so that's and that still the overwhelming number of programs are just classical. And
Right.
if you want to study something else, then that thing has the designation.
Mm.
So music hyphen jazz, music hyphen music theater, music hyphen contemporary.
Mhm.
There are there are a few programs, like I know my alma mater, University of Miami, now has a sort of a build your own music major
Mhm.
where they actually offer classes in business as part of your,
Mhm.
so that you can learn how to be a freelancer.
Yeah.
So people can do that. People can learn how to be musicians, but also University of Miami is like 70K a year.
Yeah.
What freelance musician is going to make that kind of money that they're going
Right.
to, right?
Mhm.
That's
Good point.
a lot of money, man, to
Yeah.
get a music degree where, and by the way, I don't know what your experience has been, Danielle, but I have been a professional musician for like 30 some years now. And no one has ever asked me for my degree. Never, not
Right?
once,
Oh, yeah,
never.
good point.
Nobody gives a rip whether I graduated or not
Yeah.
from a college. Nobody cares. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm not gonna say that it's not great. I mean,
Mhm.
colleges are a great little incubator. You can be in this alternate reality of just being in the knowledge and exploring and being in community, and really it's like this huge growth opportunity. So I don't want to say that that's not a good thing. It's a great thing. Is it
Mhm.
worth $280,000
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
debt? I don't know. I don't know anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's kind of the thing. It's
Mhm.
I think people need to consider, I think people need to know what they're looking at and what they're looking for when they're going to college for a degree.
Mhm. Yeah.
They
Definitely. It's I think I believe I gained so much. It wasn't anything to do with what my future professional career would be. It was more it heightened my appreciation of music.
True.
It broadened my just understanding of music,
Yeah.
musicianship. It expanded my network of musicians that I would come to know,
Yeah.
for many years. So that, was really beneficial. But you pay that price tag and then also later find out that you've got to learn a whole different part of the business just out on the streets on your own, you know,
Right. Right.
on the job training.
Which is why I think your thing is so important, so vital, and so helpful, and I'm so grateful that you have it. I point my clients at your Unstoppable Summit all the time.
Mm.
Not a month goes by when I'm like, not like, well, you need to get on her mailing list because Danielle is the person who's going to help you with this.
Aw, yes.
I'm really grateful for your work. It's really important work.
Thank you. Oh, I hope so. I hope it's helping in some way. Um, so let's get down the road where you're experiencing damage to your voice. And now and so you went and started working with another vocal trainer. Was this person already in the more contemporary music?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he was a
Okay.
jingle singer.
Right, right, right. Mhm.
He was the voice of "Up in the Valley of the Jolly Green Giant." He was that guy.
Oh, okay.
You probably
Okay.
don't remember it because 'cause you're too young.
Vaguely.
But that was like, yeah. I mean, there was a time in the, I guess, gosh, from the time I was a little kid and then through the '80s, really until the mid-90s where jingles were a thing,
Mhm.
and Chicago was jingle central.
Mm.
There were a lot of people made a lot of money from jingles in Chicago for a good 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and he was one of them.
Yeah. I know. I miss the days of that. I haven't been called to do a jingle in a long time.
I know.
Yeah. So you're beginning to develop your own private vocal studio. Where did where did your understanding of this neurovocal science come in?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wish there was a I don't have a really good story about this because it was so, it was like the primal soup,
Mhm.
It was just
Yeah.
so I'm a voracious reader. I've always been a reader, and
Mm.
I read a book by a neuroscientist named Oliver Sacks, and I read the book because it had a cute title. It was called "The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat," and
Cute.
isn't that cute? So it was all these stories of neuroscience, and I'm like, oh, that was fun. And then I got another neuroscience book and another neuroscience book, and I just started reading neuroscience books
Mhm.
and then articles and then blah blah blah. And so I wasn't connecting the two at all. But there was a point at which I did connect them, and my head kind of blew up. I was like, wait a
Mhm.
minute. Wait a minute. You have to
Mhm.
sing in your brain before you can sing out your mouth.
Mhm.
So anyway, I don't know. While I was being interested in just the notion of this, I also was teaching like 15 people a week who
Mhm.
were all my guinea pigs and didn't know it.
Right.
Because there was also a moment because all the people that I taught were microphone singers like me.
Mhm.
And there was so again, I'm teaching during the week, people like me, microphone singers, and then on the weekends I'm gigging. And every place I gig is different than the night before, as you know.
Mhm.
It's the nature of the business. And there was a point at which I realized that none of us can hear ourselves.
Mhm.
And that the way that we practice, I mean, I can articulate this better now than I could then,
Mhm.
but when we practice, so we're in voice lessons, it's an acoustic environment generally,
Right.
right? Our teacher or our coach is there, and we're in there, and it's a room. Sometimes they'll have a microphone, but even if they have a microphone, we can really hear ourselves really well because
Right.
we're the only game in town, right? At that point. And then we practice in the car, and we practice in the shower, and we practice in our living room, or right in all these acoustic environments, and then we go sing
Mhm.
on the microphone
Mm.
with the guitar amp here and the bass amp here and the trap kit 18 inches behind your butt and the horn section in your ear, and right, and
Right.
now and the monitor is pointing at your kneecaps or your crotch,
That's true.
right?
Yep.
And so you cannot hear yourself. And if you're sharing, if there are more than one singer, which there usually is, and you're
Mhm.
singing at the same time, you literally can't differentiate your voice from the person you're singing with. You just
Mm.
know that you just know the chord tone you're supposed to be singing,
Right.
right? If it's
Right.
backup vocals, right? So you can't hear yourself,
Mhm.
and you hear yourself if you hear yourself at all, it's radically different than it was in your car.
Right.
Sometimes, I mean, like I was at the rehearsal for this coming gig. We were in a room. We had monitors that were pointing in our kneecaps, but I was only hearing my voice as part of like the ethereal whole of all the music that was in the room.
Mhm.
That's a very different way to experience your voice than any of the ways that I described before.
Yeah.
And so if you're training yourself to sing based on what you're hearing, and what you're hearing is so different
Mm.
from what you trained for, then your brain is trying to figure out what to do.
Mm.
And this is that sense that singers have, and I know you've had it because everybody who's sung on a microphone has it, of like, it's just a sense of emotional unease.
Mhm.
Like I know these people, I know my music, I know the venue. I got here an hour early. I'm good, but I have this sense of like I'm not actually in the music. I'm just getting through the music
Mm, yes.
and trying not to sound bad.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
by the way, I think that was part of why I burned out too, because I was
Mhm.
really sick of just trying to get through the music and not sound bad.
Right.
That is not a motivating sense,
Mhm.
you know? So Do you agree with me? Have you been in that
Yes,
situation?
100%, 100%. I still experience this today.
Right.
Yeah.
So what that has led me to is an understanding how brains work and understanding a little bit about how brains process sensory information
Mhm.
and where brains collect sensory information from has helped me create this way of teaching singers how to listen to their bodies from the inside
Mm.
rather than responding to what they're hearing,
Wow.
which is a very, very different experience. And also, I think it is what great singers do.
Mhm.
I think when you're listening to Bruno Mars, for instance, let's say, great singer, pops to mind, Bruno
Mhm.
Mars, I don't think he listens to himself all that much. I think he knows what singing feels like,
Mhm.
and that's what he does.
Yeah.
It's what it feels like to him. Which
Right.
is another reason, like, he's able to be, or somebody like Beyonce, right, who are just so, like, fluent in their vocal expression while they are also dancing and being bombarded by all this other sensory information, lights, audience, sound, people, all this stuff. And
Mm.
they just don't have, like, the cognitive resources to also process, what do I sound like?
Yeah.
But they don't have to, because that's not how they relate to their voices.
Right. Right. That's really fascinating. I The thing that's kind of occurring to me is a good example of a singer who may already be, you know, in that heightened awareness or having the heightened feel of what singing is to them is the singer who does lose the monitor or does not or loses connection, with an in-ear system, but is
Right?
still able to feel the pitch
Yep.
and not oversing it or just completely go out of key. You know, would that be a good example?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
perfect. I remember seeing James Taylor a while back,
Mhm.
long while back, actually. But yeah, even that happened. Like,
Mhm.
he's singing, he's just singing, and he sounds like butter melting on toast. That guy,
Yes.
right? And he's
Uh-huh.
singing along, and then he gets to the end of the song, and he goes, he says into the microphone, "I lost my monitor halfway through. Could you guys?" And then he talked a little while on the microphone, and a guy came out, and he ran out again.
Uh-huh.
Nobody in the audience knew that had
Mm.
happened, even me. And I'm
Mhm.
like, super ears girl. I couldn't tell
Mhm.
because he doesn't really care that much.
Yeah.
He just knows what it feels like.
Right. Mm. So, how do you start in your studio? How do you start to help singers begin to make those connections?
So it kind of depends on how long I'm going to get to work with somebody,
Mhm.
because brain work is organic and it depends on this thing called neuroplasticity. So your neurons in your brain, they are comprised of the cell body, which is, the body of the thing, and then it has these things called dendrites and axons, and those are these spindly bits that come out from the cell body, and they receive and send the information to the next door cell body.
Mhm.
And so when we are always changing those connections. Every
Mm.
time you learn a new skill, you are changing those connections.
Okay.
Every time you're trying to call up an old memory, you're changing those connections. So
Mhm.
we're always doing this thing called neuroplasticity, where we're changing the chemical or the mechanical makeup of our neural environment in our brains.
Mhm.
When we do that on purpose, it takes some time.
Yeah.
And so if you think about any skill that you've ever learned on purpose, so I don't know, have you ever learned to, like, do something like rollerblade or anything like that?
I'm sure I have.
Okay. Well, let's imagine that you're going
Okay.
to learn to rollerblade.
Okay.
When you first get up on the skates, it's going to feel super weird
Mhm.
because your brain is looking for a memory of that and it doesn't have one because you've
Mhm.
never been on those skates before.
Right.
So your brain is not able to do what it does best, which is predict for things.
Mhm.
And if every day you get up on those skates and it starts to become more familiar and your brain knows how to predict, and so you are engaged in the process of neuroplasticity. As you experience yourself getting better and better and better at rollerblading, more confident, more solid on the skates, more on the blades, more able to move forward, more able to navigate bumpy pavement, all this stuff.
Mhm.
Those skills that you are becoming familiar with represent the neuroplasticity that's happening in your brain.
Mm. Okay.
You are creating what I love to call a file.
Mhm.
It's your rollerblade file. You have a file called rollerblade that has to open before you can rollerblade.
Right.
So if I'm going to work with somebody for a while,
Mhm.
then that's the process I engage in with them because that's the most reliable thing. If we can teach the singer how to change their neurology
Mhm.
such that they respond to their singing in this other way, this more sensory way, rather than the listening way,
Mhm.
then they're golden. It's kind of cool because it happens a little bit magically, which is never stops being fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if I'm going to get to work with somebody for a while, that's the process we're going to engage in. But that's usually because it's organic, it takes, a while, at
Mhm.
least 3 or 4 months. That's going to
Mhm.
take. But the tools that I use to achieve that are also applicable as techniques.
Mhm.
So if you were to come to me and say, Meredith, I love this song, but I don't love the way I'm singing it,
Mhm.
then we could work on that together. And I would be able to throw you some of these techniques that might give you the freedom or the more accurate expression that you're looking for as a singer.
Right. Okay.
So it's kind of nice that it does double duty. We could do the fast version or the slow version. But the thing is, whatever you and I work on together may or may not stick for you.
Right. This sounds like something every singer should have a foundation in. But in your studio, what are some examples of challenges that singers come in with that you're able to help them with this method?
Oh, that is a good question, Danielle. That is a very good question. Okay. Here. All right. Can we talk about microphone singers for a minute?
Let's talk about them.
Let's talk about it because
Go
that's
for
who's watching this is people who sing in bands or they're singer-songwriters or right? They're people who are
Mhm.
gonna always sing on microphones. And sometimes those people are afraid to work with voice professionals. Have you
Mhm.
found this to be true?
Sure, yeah,
And what is your experience been about why they're afraid?
because they don't wanna change their voice. They don't wanna be changed.
They don't want to be changed.
Mhm,
Exactly.
mhm,
And this is the big disconnect that
mhm.
voice people who call themselves voice teachers because they don't understand what voice coach means in our world. I'm hoping to change that before I die. There's a difference. Um, so most people who train singers,
Mhm,
they have come through a process where they have learned, like you and I came through, where they have learned to sing a certain way. But the invisible thing that's really important, it's everywhere in their world, is that they learned how to sing
mhm,
because that kind of music is very specific and it's very rigid framework.
Mhm.
And in order to call it the genre that it is, you have to sing based on those rules within that framework, right?
Right.
So those people learned how to sing, and then they go out into the world and they teach other people how to sing. But people in popular styles don't want to learn how to sing. They know how to sing. If they're seeking out help, it's because they have an issue with their voice.
Yes. Right. Mhm.
A lot of times people, I would say way more often than not, people conflate voices and singing as though they are the same. They are not the same. Like people will say, "Oh, I love her. She has such a great voice." Well,
Mhm.
maybe what you love about her is her voice. Possibly. Very likely, though, what you really love about her is her singing,
Mm. Mhm.
which is different than her voice.
Right. That's a great point. Mhm.
So, as because singing's a skill, singing changes. You're
Mhm.
not the same singer you were that 10 years ago.
Mhm.
You've changed as a singer.
Yes.
So, when people are voice coaches for people of popular styles, they may or may not understand that they're not trying to help someone with their singing. What they're doing is they're trying to help them with their voice so that the voice is responsive to the intentions of the singer.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because when people come to me with problems, their problems have everything to do with their voice. I hate my break. Well, I deal with a lot of professional singers, so fatigue is the number one reason.
Yeah.
Like I have to be able to sing a 4-hour gig tonight and then again tomorrow. And
Right.
I have vocal fatigue. So that's a voice thing. They don't want to change the way they sing. They want to be able to sing 2 nights in a row.
Yes.
So the work that I do with people is about creating responsive, a strong, responsive voice that has a great range
Mhm.
so that they can express themselves however they want.
Right.
And
Right.
I think that's when people are afraid to go to get voice training, they're afraid for a good reason. That's not an unrealistic fear.
Right. I agree.
And they don't know the question to ask, and the person who is offering their services also doesn't know the question to ask. Because the
Mhm.
question to ask is, are we learning to sing or are we working to make a more responsive voice?
Mhm.
Those are different things.
Yeah. Oh, I see that. Yes. You mentioned range, and I think this will take us to the book that you wrote too. Everybody that walks through my door, their number one goal is range.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
That's the number one thing that they say is like, "Oh, I'd like to expand my, range." And that coupled with wanting to learn to use a mixed register,
Mhm.
and have more power in the voice. So and you have written a book called Money Notes: How to Sing High, Loud, Healthy, and Forever. How do you start with the singer who comes in with those questions? Maybe not necessarily the professional, because like you said, that's generally, addressing the fatigue feel of it, but um just the singer who maybe hasn't learned the skill yet
Right.
of, you know, um changing from one register to the other, I guess is where I'm getting at.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, it would be fun to talk with you about this over a beer sometime. See what you
Okay.
do
Hey,
with people.
next time I'm in Chicago.
Yeah, or next time I'm in California. Yeah, that's it. Okay, yeah. So that's the thing, the main thing that
Mhm.
people tend to want,
The
and
holy grail of singing is what I
yeah,
call it.
it is the holy grail of singing, and I have a very systematic way of
Mhm,
teaching people that skill. First this, then this, then this, then this.
mhm,
And as they understand that skill, they move into being able to accomplish it.
mhm,
It's tricky and it takes some getting used to.
Mhm.
And I think one of the challenges that singers can run into is that they think there's a simple answer. They
Mhm.
think they can understand it in their brains. And I
Right.
know you know what I mean, right?
Mhm.
Like, if only these voice teachers would just tell us what the deal
Tell me
is,
what to
so we could
do.
just do it, you
Just
know?
tell me what to do.
Just tell me what to do, right? I'm smart, I can understand in my head, so why
Yeah.
are you not just telling me what to do? And
Mm.
as long as they're holding on to that idea, it's really gonna stand in their way.
Mhm.
It really is a process. It's not what your voice does naturally. I mean, yeah, once in a while, there's one of those annoying people that just does it naturally.
Mhm.
I married one and gave birth to one. They're annoying. But but they're the exception, not the rule.
Right.
The rule is it's challenging and it's not natural and you have to learn it and it's a skill.
Mhm.
And if somebody has a way to do that, I mean, I have, because that's such a big deal in our industry,
Mhm.
that was one of my motivations for creating a very systematic this,
Yeah.
then this, then this, then this way of approaching getting those high, strong notes. But I will tell you one thing that I think the people who are watching this might appreciate. So I have a video that's called "The Number One Secret to Hitting Your Money Notes."
Mhm.
And in that video, and it's a really funny video because I was like new to making videos, so I was using all these weird filters. When I look at it now, I'm like, "Oh my god." But, yeah, who knows? In 5 years, it'll be retro and kitschy and cute.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, but in it, there's a 1-minute compilation that I made of a whole bunch of singers hitting their money notes. Boom,
Mhm.
boom, 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 boom. And when you hear it back to back like that, you notice a couple of really crucial things that we tend to miss in context.
Mhm.
And that those 2 things are that it's not a nice sound. It ain't pretty.
Mhm.
And it's not as big and fat as you think it is. It
Right.
tends to be kinda skinny and whiny.
Mhm.
And so when you take away the context of the song and the greatness of the singer, and you just go note, 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 note that they're just belting out, right?
Mhm.
You go, "Oh, oh, well, maybe the thing that I was shooting for isn't really the thing I actually want."
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is the reason I don't use the word belt,
Right.
because
Okay.
I think that word holds people back.
Yeah.
Do you also agree with that?
I agree with that. I agree that in in vocal training, the whole language, the whole dictionary of singing is so messed up now. We interchange, our words for things just because they're I don't know. I mean, everybody seems to have developed their own understanding of, what these different terms mean. And I find myself cringing sometimes at myself in lessons because I'm at a loss for words,
Right.
you know, uh, so I'll pull an antiquated idea of a word out and just think like, "I can't believe I'm saying this, but here goes." But yes, I agree with belting.
Yeah, I know, and especially with registration, right?
Right.
I
Yes.
did a live stream last Monday, that was about registration,
Mhm.
and I started by saying there's a hard problem, a soft problem, and a real problem with
Mm,
registration. That the hard problem is we don't actually know exactly what it is.
yeah.
The soft problem is every one of us has our own subjective experience with it.
Mhm.
And then the real problem is everybody wants to learn how to conquer it.
Yes.
You
True.
know?
So
So
true. I'm curious to know how does this work for the singer who experiences performance anxiety? Is this a good area for singers to work with?
you know what? I I would rather refer people to, if someone says, "I'm reaching out to you because I have performance anxiety," I refer them out
Mhm,
because that is not my area of expertise, and there are
mhm,
people out there who know so much more than I do about that. That I I just rather would stay in my lane.
Right.
You know, that's not my lane.
That's so good of you. Most teachers are not like that. You know?
Yeah, I know.
Many of us are like, yeah, I can do that.
I can
I'll
do
take that on."
everything. Whatever it is, I'll do it.
Oh my gosh.
No, I've been doing it a long time. And I know what I'm really good at and what I'm really fast at.
Mhm.
Uh, and I know what I'm not great at. And also, I train voice coaches and voice teachers,
Right.
which makes me aware of all these amazing talents and specialties that other voice professionals have
Mhm.
that I don't,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, you know what? I know someone who's way better at this than I am.
Mhm. Well, I love that about you, Meredith. And I have the honor and privilege of seeing behind the scenes what's going on, in your career in the development of, what you're doing. And you really are an expert in this, and you are passionately an expert in this. And you care very, very deeply about the real science and the real humans that are, interacting in this situation. You're developing these, well thought out, well polished programs for singers and for teachers, vocal coaches. So I can't stand behind, what you do more. It's just it's amazing, and I'm always in awe of, what you have brewing. It's really
Thank you, Danielle.
great
I
thing.
appreciate that you I'm really grateful that you are interested in it and that you don't just go, "Oh God, there
I
she
think
goes again."
I think it's absolutely fascinating. It's brilliant to me, and the more I learn about it, the more I think, yeah, oh, yep, okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. And
I
so I'm a good example of someone who's like your ideal client as far as like a teacher
totally.
goes, because this is not an area that I ever learned. I
No.
mean, who's teaching this?
No, nobody.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
why?
I think it's so weird. Like the more I learn about this, I'm thinking, why am I the only one doing this? Like, why
Mhm,
isn't everybody doing this? To me, it just is so shockingly obvious. The problem is shockingly obvious, that we can't hear ourselves when we perform on mic. Like, why am I the only one talking about this? We should
mhm,
all be talking about this. And in light of the fact that we can't hear ourselves when we perform, why have we not come up with a different approach?
mhm,
And especially because this approach, I mean, using brain science, using neuroscience is just like so predictable.
mhm.
So even with neurodivergent brains, because it doesn't require that kind of processing.
Right. Right. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you're doing what you're doing. And you are spreading the good word to the vocal training field. And you have a new workshop out
I do.
on Teachable, and it's called How to Teach High Rock Belt, in quotes.
I do. It's
Tell
in
me about
quotes.
that.
It's in quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the truth so I have one thing that's just like always available, which is that how to teach high rock belt. It's yeah, it's a self-paced, but it's only like 70 minutes total.
Mhm,
But I've gotten so much great feedback about it. People find really useful stuff in there.
mhm,
Um, and then also I have a teacher training class coming up. And that I have one that starts on April 7th. It's the last one I'm doing for the year, and the classes are really small. Like a full class for me is 12 people
yeah.
because I give them so much attention and TLC. So there's that. So yeah, I do private coaching for singers and
Mhm,
voice pros, any flavor of voice professional.
mhm,
Or actually even, you know what? I have a couple avocational singers that I adore
mhm.
because they're not trying to make a living out of it.
Right.
They just love singing. I love working with them. Um, yeah, so I have the teachable thing, I do one-on-one, and then I do the classes for professionals.
That's great. And for the how to teach high rock belt, you have generously given us a 50% off code, which is unstoppable. And I will put the link in the comments right now, which I failed to pull up ahead of time.
That's
But
right. Unstoppable audience gets the unstoppable promo code
yes.
to get the thing for half price.
Oh, thank you
And
so much.
actually, the how to teach high rock belt thing could actually help singers as well.
Hmm.
I mean, I have how to teach because I'm talking to teachers, but it's stuff that singers should know too.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Completely
really,
agree.
I mean, there's, a moment or two of fancy language, but I explain my fancy language. So, yeah. I mean, if somebody's the kind of singer where they're super interested in how their singing works and
Mhm.
how to be more in charge of their own singing, they would love that too, I
Yeah,
think.
I could definitely see that. But I, for one, I can't wait to take your course. Um, the more I hear about it, the more fascinated I am by it. So I'm just, again, I really want to acknowledge, what you're doing. I think it's
Thank
so needed in our field. And I just feel so honored to have a front row seat to what you have going on. And
Thanks, Jen.
I put the link in the comments, but I also posted up your Instagram, LinkedIn, and your website so that everybody can check out just more about you in
Great.
general.
Yeah. I mean, I put up a lot of content because I like to be helpful.
Hmm.
So, and I try to think about like what questions have come up and what will help people. And so, yeah, so I have a lot of content on YouTube and the socials, and I have a really active blog. And so I do have to make a living. Sometimes I can't generate free stuff constantly, but,
Hmm. Sure.
but I do try to offer up free stuff as much as I can.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And bringing us
Kind of
home.
like you. Wait a minute. Kind of like you with your Unstoppable. Are you offering it free again this year?
It's always free. It is always free to attend the Unstoppable
Wow.
Singer Summit. So we'll be
Wow.
back May 15th through the 17th. So you'll be hearing more than you ever wanted to hear about it pretty soon.
Oh, no, I can't get enough of it. I think it's just such an incredible event. It's an incredible event. Your lineup last year made my head spin. I couldn't believe what kind of people you had just sharing all of their smarts. I mean,
Including you.
well, yes, I was one of the speakers, but yeah, I mean, I was yeah, that was actually really fun. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me, by the way. That was
you were
really
great.
fun. But yeah, like just like one after another, after another, after another, all talking about stuff that's relevant to working singers
Yeah.
or people who want to be working singers.
Mhm. There's some great leaders, some great mentors out there, people
Right?
with amazing information, and if I just want it to be as accessible to as many singers as possible because we need it. After
We
going through
do.
COVID and
Right.
experiencing everything we did, being kind of left out in the cold like that,
Yeah.
we got to learn from that and prepare ourselves, for the future, protect
Yeah.
ourselves. But
Well, it's an amazing event, and I cannot believe that you basically put it on yourself. It's just like, how did she do that?
I'm a weirdo. That's why
You are a
I'm a
weirdo in the
weirdo.
best way, in the best way.
Thank you. Well, I can't wait to have you back again this year. We've
Yeah.
already got you in the lineup.
Yay.
Um, so I'm going to bring us home to our last question of the night, so I can give you the rest of your evening back. Um, Going back to your study and the programs that you put together, I have seen you have had many challenges to overcome with you know getting your messaging across, getting people to understand or being open to understanding what it is that you're doing, that along with everything that has led you through your personal and musical journey until now, what makes you unstoppable?
What makes me unstoppable is the idea that I can help the next young singer have her voice without all the struggles that you and I had.
Mm.
That if I can train a voice coach to change the way she helps her clients, that means that one voice coach is going to affect dozens, hundreds of lives.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that my work can make all of these young musicians empowered
Mm-hmm.
to share their voice and to find that community that music offers, and to just like be free musicians and artists and expand into their craft and their art without all the baggage.
Yeah.
Like if I can contribute to that singer's journey, that fires me up.
What a beautiful ripple effect it has. Not to mention that learning this reaches into many other areas of your life. It's not just the
Right.
singing.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
People don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
How when you really start taking your singing seriously, how that ripple effect,
Mm-hmm.
how it affects so many other things in your life.
Yeah, it really does. Well, thank you so much, Meredith. I knew this was going to be a great conversation. Thank you. I'm
Thank
so
you for having
grateful
me,
for
Danielle.
you.
You are so awesome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everybody who jumped into the comments tonight, hanging out with us live tonight.
Yay.
I totally failed to call anyone out, but we have Greg Grunwald, Deborah Goldman, and oops, I have another one lost here. But thank you very much for hanging with us tonight. And I will see you bright and early tomorrow, Meredith, and
Oh
I'll
yeah.
see everybody else. I will see the rest of you back here next week with another fabulous singer. So
Awesome.
take care, everyone. Good night.
Bye, Danielle.